Welcome one and all to another PMQs, Deputy PMQs on the Brews at 10 on my left eye. How you all doing tonight? I'm your host Lefty. Hope you're all having a good week. Got over hump day. Divinia RC pilot, great to see you in the chat already. As well as Chris, who's got some excellent advice about hitting the thumbs up button on the stream. Good shout. RC pilot, Hedy as well. Wonderful to see you. Thanks for sharing the content around on social media. Floor Snake, finally. The kettle's boiled and you're with us. Great to see you too. And Kit just jumping in as well. Okay, I'll leave the chat to brew a moment, so to speak, whilst people arrive. It's great to see you all. Thanks a lot for joining me on another live stream. No Keith this week on PMQs. Might be off getting a suit measured or some new designer glasses fitted. Not sure. So Angelo Reyno's going to be stepping in and see how that goes. As always, that's going to be my genuine reaction to PMQs. I've not seen any of it. I've not actually seen any even 10-20 second clips floating around social media. I've been quite busy today. So genuine reaction, plus a few other stories from the UK and the wider world. Mobius, great to see you too. So welcome all, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. Be getting, be getting started very shortly. Comedy clip, then straight into PMQs, I think, with a schedule. And then just a couple of other bits and pieces. Just getting a few things lined up. Bear with me. Orangelo Reyno. Yeah, I see. Unfortunately now fully compromised by the neoliberal mob. She's made her way to Deputy Prime Minister. As a consequence, oh, it's a shame. It is a shame. I think it's about time to give a customary thank you to all the members on the channel as well. I can see quite a few members in the chat tonight too. Great to see you. And if you're watching back on a replay and your name's on this list, thanks a lot for helping to support the channel. And if you want to join this list, incredible, awesome, wonderful people would like to join them in Solidari-Tea. It's just 99 pence for a membership. So please check out the perks. Consider supporting the channel in that way. Mega shout out to people who've gifted memberships recently as well. That's always the preferred way to support the channel. But if you are watching back on a replay, if you're not with us live on the stream, then there's nothing wrong with that. But you can show solidarity with super thanks as well. Super thanks are open as well as super chat for live streamers. If you got a particular point or particular question, I do promise to read out all super chats, as long as they're not grotesquely profane and in violation of YouTube's terms of service, of course. Heaven forfend. Mobius and RC, thanks a lot for throwing up the Palestine flags in the chat as well. I will be getting onto such topics later in the stream, of course. So there's been this, well, it's a developing story now that broke just today about this incident in Turkey. So I might just quickly go over that later on as well. See if there have been any more developments, as well as what's happening between Israel and Palestine, Lebanon, Iran. Lists of countries grow and grow, unfortunately. What's this about Minecraft in the chat? What's going on in here, people? I need some context for this one. Why do you need to know that about Minecraft? What kind of world building is this? Oh, of course, Floor Snake. You know where Keith is. He must be in the fondue lounge, of course. So he normally only has it on Sundays, but now he's gone up to twice a week. This could be somewhat troubling. Will Keith's fondue addiction distract him from his duties as Prime Minister? Troubling times indeed. Before I get too distracted though, as well as just another thanks to all the members there, please do hit the thumbs up button on the stream and share across your social media. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, on Twitter it's @MyLeftEyeUK, and on Mastodon it's @MyLeftEye with caps at the start of each word there on Mastodon. Right, first up, what have we got? I just saw this comedy clip out, bear with. It's another one from Noreen Skinner. I know that I featured her on the last Brews at 10. Didn't have a great amount, not that it isn't a good clip, of course. I just don't want to think that I'm stalking her or something, or keeps flagging up about using her content. Okay, I'm going to have to do it the other way, just bear with me. So yeah, the comedy clip's about, you know, there being people in prison released to free up space. That's been in the news recently. But whilst, oh, I'll just pick an example off the top of my head, should we say? Climate protesters, environmental protesters, and even pro-ceasefire protesters have found themselves in prison. Some people convicted of some way more serious crimes, shall we say, have just recently been released. So, right, I've got that lined up now. Sorry about the wait, folks. Let's get across to the screen. Killer background music. So if you're not familiar with Noreen Skinner, please do check her out. She's a great impersonator, impressionist. Great stuff. So she's on YouTube. Check it out.
It's me, Sid, and I've been released. That's right. I'm one of the released prisoners. Let me out. 1,000 of us are out in the streets today. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that mental? Isn't that mental? We're just 1,000 of us roaming the streets. I mean, that's criminal, isn't it? That is criminal. But you know what? It's so nice. It's so nice to smell the nice fresh air. Well, I say fresh. It's more polluted than it ever was, to be honest. If I'm going to be, honest about it, I think it's probably better inside the prison than it is outside. But no, what a legend Keir Starmer is. I mean, what, big up Keir, mate. We're out celebrating, we're in a Rolls Royce, that's it, living it large. I've got some champagne, Keir, that's it, way! Yeah, I nicked that. Yeah, don't tell anyone. Well, it wouldn't matter anyway, would it? Nobody'd do nothing. But no, I can't speak for all 1,000 of us that have been released today or nothing. But I'm going to be good. I'm going to get out there. I'm just going to try and do what I do and not get up to too much, But at the end of the day, I've got to do what I've got to do. I only do petty crimes anyway. That's what I was in for in the first place. And the way I look at it, right, it's a win-win. Innit? Because at the end of the day, I can go out, do what I do, get up to scraps, as your father, whatever, and then maybe I'll do something a bit dodge. I'll go down the station, the pigs will question me, right? Give me a slap on the wrist, a bit like Santa, I've been bad this year, and then they'll just let me back out again, because at the end of the day, there's no room left in the prisons, is there? So, win-win. What's the worst thing I've ever done? Well, I just, like I say, petty crimes, really. I love arson. I absolutely love fire. I love fire. Oh, I want to go burn something right now. I absolutely love setting things alight. A bit like this government, really, but they just keep pouring gasoline on it, don't they? But anyway, I so respect Keir. I do. Do you know what he's doing, actually? He's created an incentive for all of us prisoners that are coming out today. We're not allowed to really be putting it on the online or nothing, but it's called Free Gear Keir. Basically, any of the gear that he can't wear anymore because he's not allowed to, he got in trouble or something, he accepted things he shouldn't have done. Anyway, he's going to give that to us. It's like proper decent stuff, right? Yeah, and we're going to sell it and make some moolah from it. Isn't that proper nice? Yeah, it's well good. And also, apparently, they're doing some online learning courses for us to help us rehabilitate. I mean, I'm not into that, but I think that's just all right, isn't it? I suppose. Driver, can we go to NatWest? They still got all of those, they still got cash on the premises and that? No. Oh, mate. Well, I suppose that's actually good, isn't it? Because those online learning courses will come in handy. That is proper good of the government, isn't it? Just realised that. Yeah, helping us to get with the times, to commit modern crimes. That rhymes. Oh, my God. Anyway, I've got to be going. I've got better get my way learning and all that. Yeah, thanks, Keir. What a legend. Love you, mate. Way! I've been released!
Whatever floats your boat.
Great stuff, Noreen Skinner there. Do check her out. Yeah, so Sid's off having a good one. She's such a great impersonator. She does a really good Angelo Reno as well. Who else has she done? She does the Liv Truss, which is the Liz Truss parody. I think that was the first one of hers that I came across, was a doing Liv Truss. And then she's done Johnson as well. Who else has she done? There's been quite a few, but yeah, great impersonator. So do check out the channel and subscribe to that as well. So then, people, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, are you ready to dive into the House of Commons for another game of Black Hole versus Postman Swat? And if that sounds like a load of gibberish, please just let me explain 1 second for people who aren't regular viewers here on my left eye. Play a little game during PMQs to see how many times they mention this £22 billion black hole quotes versus how many times they mention the word deliver. So there's going to be a live scoreboard up as we go through PMQs. I believe last week it was a victory for Postman Swat and Deliver. Or was it a draw? I think it was a draw. Was it 2-2? But who's it going to be this week? Place your predictions in the chat. This is just predictions. Very clear on this. This is not a competition. There are no prizes. Well, you'll get a shout out if you get the correct score. But no, this isn't a contest, just to be very clear on that. YouTube. This ain't no dodgy Mr. Beast lottery. It's Deputy PMQs. On my left eye, the Brews at 10. It was 3-3. Yeah, it was 3-3. It was kind of back and forth for a bit, wasn't it? Okay, there's the live stream logo. I just realised that was missing as well. Let's get the scoreboard up. So we've got Black Hole there and Postman Swat for Deliver. Oh, it was 1-1. There you go. I've not reset the score since last time. All will be revealed. Conveniently. Okay. So let's just reset that to 0-0. Was 1-1, not 3-3. It was only a week ago. It must have been a long week. And for anybody who's not seen it, if you can't make out the Postman Swat, post, I'll just bring that up so that you can see that a bit more detail. There he is. How many times is he going to deliver today? Let's wait and see. The more you look at him, the more he looks like Starmer. Really, I've not adjusted the face at all. So if you just stuck a hat and some, well, they're probably expensive designer glasses now. And this thing behind me is what the last Labour Prime Minister sold off. Okay, so let's kill the background music. And bring in Speaker of the House, Lindsay Hoyle. Off we go. So do keep an ear out for those two phrases as well. I'm going to talk over the top as well as pause, so if I do miss any, let me know in the chat. I think that happened last week. Be vigilant, people. Off we go. Oh, straight in. Straight in. Okay, 1-0 there. I've just paused it in case they start coming in thick and fast. 1-0 to deliver. Oh, didn't do the didn't do the bell. Getting a bit rusty. Okay, let's go. 1-0 to Blackhall. Oh, sorry, was the...
I know the whole House will join me in sending our best wishes to Sir Chris Hoy and his wife, Zara.
There we go.
He is a true sporting legend, and the courage and positivities they have shown will inspire...
Okay, it's here.
Today, this government signed a landmark defence agreement with Germany which will help keep us safe and create hundreds of jobs. Mr. Speaker, I know the whole House will join me in sending our best wishes to Sir Chris Hoy and his wife, Zara. He is a true sporting legend, and the courage and positivities they have shown will inspire many others. Mr. Speaker, I also send our condolences to those affected by the train crash in Powys. Mr. Speaker, this morning I have had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others, and in addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For 14 years, my constituents in Newcastle-under-Lyme had suffered flatlining wages, in-work poverty and a battered economy that served nobody. Can I urge the Deputy Prime Minister to use the Employment Rights Bill to turn the page on the last 14 years, to give our businesses the support they need, and to finally restore dignity, prosperity and opportunity to the good people of Newcastle-under-Lyme?
Can I thank my honourable friend and welcome my honourable friend to his place? When this government took office, we promised the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation, a new deal for working people. We said that we would introduce a bill within the first 100 days, and we've kept that promise. This is a Labour government.
You said you scrapped tuition fees. You said that you wouldn't cut winter fuel payments.
Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Oliver Dowden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I join the Deputy Prime Minister in paying tribute to the bravery of Sir Chris Hoy? He truly is an inspiration to us all.
Don't worry if you forgot that Oliver Dowden was the Deputy Leader of the
Mr.
Opposition.
Speaker, what is the Deputy Prime Minister's definition
I had as
of
well.
people?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Everybody was like, who?
Well, first of all, let me start by welcoming the honourable gentleman to his new place. Today is our first exchange, Mr. Speaker, since he pushed for a July general election. And if his own side hasn't offered him a peerage, I certainly would have. And Mr. Speaker,
oh, let's have a good old laugh together, eh?
The Tory party have failed for the last 14 years.
Oliver Dowden.
Well, the Deputy Prime Minister stood on a manifesto promising not to raise taxes on working people. It now appears she can't even define who working people are. So I'll give her another go. There are 5 million small business owners in this country. Are they working people?
Yeah. Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know how the shadow deputy prime minister
define small. What's a small business?
When it was the small businesses, the working people of this country that paid the price of them crashing the economy, sending interest rates scoring. I think he needs to learn opposition.
But unfortunately, Angela, the overriding message as well, you can say what you like about the definition of working people and your support for them, but you're going to absolutely screw over unemployed people, especially unemployed people claiming disability allowance, etc. It's going to be this strong emphasis on business, you know, the growth. However many times we're going to hear that. But it's just going to be pandering to big business. That's what growth means when you lift up the veil.
Oliver Dowden.
Well, I think the whole House will have heard the Deputy Prime Minister disregard 5 million hard-working small business owners. These are the publicans, the shopkeepers, the family running a local cafe. None of those count as working people to her. Now, Labour gave a clear commitment not to raise national insurance. The independent IFS have given their view on this. They say that raising employer national insurance is a tax on working people. Even the Chancellor said that raising employer national insurance was a jobs tax that will make each new recruit more expensive and increase the cost to business. So does she agree with the IFS and her own Chancellor?
Mr. Speaker, I remember the party opposite.
Well, they said that they wouldn't put up tax or national insurance before the election, and now the budget's still yet to come out this month, apparently, as we're getting towards the end of it. We'll see what happens with that, but they've already reneged on several promises.
They said to business, what was it, F to business? Whereas this party held an international investment summit last week, which poured £63 million into our economy. We're pro-business, pro-worker, and getting on with fixing the mess that they left behind.
It's all just empty rhetoric, though, really. There's no real push for example, the raising of the minimum wage and amount that should be for, workers' rights, this kind of thing, especially workers who consider taking industrial action, going on strike, going on protest. That's not what Labour are for. Not under Starmer.
At least agree with herself.
Mr. Speaker, what I'm incredibly proud of is this week, this government brought in a new employment bill, which will raise the living standards of 10 million workers. Would the Shadow Deputy Prime Minister like to apologise for the hiking taxes, 70-year hiking taxes that he put on working people, the crashing of the economy and the disaster that he left behind?
Do you remember 5 years ago there was talk of certain industries being able to implement a 3 or 4 day week for workers with the same pay, these kind of rights for employers, talk of following suits that other countries have done in paying employees for the time that it takes them to commute to work. That's not going to be in this these new offerings, these crumbs on the table from Labour. Same as with these lot.
I'd like to turn to somebody I hope we can all agree is a hard-working person. His Majesty the King.
Just one sec. They're all wearing they're wearing exactly the same thing. Are they going on a stag do or something after this? Red ties with dots, speckles, different concentrations of. But look, it's very uniform, isn't it? And all rich white men with similar haircuts and suits. Oh well, what a coincidence.
Will she join me in sending him best wishes ahead of the Commonwealth Summit in Samoa? In particular, will she confirm that this government recognises the unique role played by the Commonwealth? And will she commit to deepening this relationship so that under His Majesty's leadership we build upon possibly...
anticipated this a little, that there'd be a bit of brown nosing after that incident in Australia with King Charles getting heckled by the indigenous protester there.
The greatest legacy of the late Queen.
Yeah. Deputy Prime Minister.
I will miss our exchanges. The Battle of the Gingers.
Oh, stop with the pally-pally. The Battle of the Gingers.
And in that spirit, Mr. Speaker, I will agree with my right honourable friend. The King does a tremendous job, and so did the late Queen, and the Commonwealth is very important, and that's why the King and the Prime Minister at the moment are working together. Thank you.
Oliver Dowden.
Well, I thank the Right Honourable Lady for that answer.
Give
Our
over,
Commonwealth
Brainerd.
family is brought together by historical and cultural ties, indeed, much like the pair of us. But I will resist
Can't stand this pally-pally. Just going to give a quick shout out. Some of the comments in the chat. Yeah, the King's so hard done by those millions of pounds in a pay rise. Please do get the large tissues and the small violins out for him. Sharing those sentiments as well, Kit. King of the grifters.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we talk about economics. The architect of the 2024 Tory General
She looks
Election
like the Green
campaign,
Goblin.
during his victory lap before
Rachel
retiring
Reeves.
with the hereditary peers that he fought
Is
so
that-
hard to protect. He leaves behind the Tory party in utter
Even she's
denial,
trying
heads
to
in the sand,
show
refusing to accept the
trace of
rejection
imitation
by the
of
British public. Their
being
plan for Britain, Mr.
a human.
Speaker, includes scrapping the minimum wage, cutting maternity pay and tax breaks for the big oil companies. Mr. Speaker, this Labour government is elected to end the Tory chaos.
Dr. Evans, you've got a sore neck. I wish it was your throat a little. Come on, Deputy Prime Minister.
Oh no,
Mr.
they're all
Speaker, they don't like to
setting
hear
each
it,
other
but
off.
this Labour government was elected to end the Tory chaos.
Give it a rest, Oil.
And that's exactly what we're doing. £600 more in the pockets of insecure workers, 30,000 new dads given paternity leave, and 10 million working people better off. While their so-called leadership candidates argue about what went wrong, this Labour government is getting on with rebuilding Britain.
Rachel Maskell.
Thank you, Mr.
I thought we were going to get
I, like many MPs, have
something
heard
on the
many
scoreboard there with that.
heartrending stories
Nope.
of constituents who have had poor
Still 1-0.
end-of-life support.
Postman twat.
Yet had palliative care been available alongside an end-of-life plan, their experiences could have been so different. Would the Deputy Prime Minister agree to set up a commission for palliative and end-of-life care so that everyone can access the very best support when terminally ill and have a peaceful and dignified death? And will she meet to discuss it?
I thank my right honourable friend for raising what is an emotive subject on both sides of this House. I know from my own work in this area before I was in this place what an incredible work this is and the honour it is to be there for somebody at the end of their life. Discussions have begun now on how to improve access to palliative and end-of-life care, and I'll ensure that she gets a meeting with the relevant minister to discuss this issue.
Deputy Leader
That's
of the
the
Liberal Democrats.
assisted dying bill, is it?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I associate myself and the Liberal Democrats with the Deputy Prime Minister's remarks about Chris Hoy and all those involved in the train crash? Our NHS is bracing itself for a winter crisis. And one of the causes of the winter crisis every year is that there are thousands of people in hospitals who are fit to go home, but they can't be discharged because there are not the care workers in place to enable people to recover at home or in a care home. Would the Deputy Prime Minister consider the Liberal Democrats' idea of an NHS winter task force to winter-proof our NHS, end this cycle of the winter crisis and put to an end the scandal of hospital patients paying the price of the social care crisis left by the Conservatives?
I thank the honourable lady for her comments, and I share with her her desire to ensure that care workers are given the respect and the importance that they deserve. They are critical, in my opinion, to solving the problems within our National Health Service, and it's the Labour Party that will create a national care service, and we're launching
almost
our
like a
first
planted
ever
question,
fair
but
pay
from another
agreement
party.
for care professionals to boost recruitment and retention. We must get the NHS back on its feet after the disaster of the Conservatives, and my right honourable friend, the Chancellor, will have more to say in the budget.
Daisy Cooper.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Deputy Prime Minister for her answer. We stand ready as a party of constructive...
I'm dreading this budget. They're going to try and cover it with some sort of minimal offering, like... But really, what's going to be baked into it is awful. Really not looking forward to this budget. Good point, Mobius. They are all dressed in blue. Lib Dem, Labour and the Tories. Coincidence?
opposition to work with the government to fix our social care system. However, one of the measures that could make it harder for us to keep the carers that we so desperately need would be an increase in employers' national insurance contributions. Were that measure to go ahead, it would affect millions of small businesses, including 18,000 small care providers. Can I ask the Deputy Prime Minister to assure this House that there will be nothing in the budget that makes it harder for vulnerable people to access the care workers and the care that they desperately need?
She's going to dance around this question like...
Well, again, I won't speculate on the budget, not least with the Chancellor that sat at the side of me. But what I will say, and I'll reiterate what the Chancellor has said and what the Prime Minister has said, this will be a budget that recognises that working people of this country and the enterprise in this country has been hard hit by the 14 years of Conservative. We will rebuild Britain and we will grow our economy to pay for our public services.
Chris MacDonald.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. This next year marks the 200th anniversary of the Stockton to Darlington Railway, but the rail...
Just very quickly on the NHS, I do have a video about Wes Streeting coming up. That's going to be premiering for members immediately after this live stream as well. He was on LBC earlier, and I'm going to touch on that later in the stream for a little bit. But please do check out the premiere of that straight after the stream. If you're going to hang around, which I know that you will, because you're all fantastic, amazing people, and you'd love to show solidarity by checking out more of the content on the channel. Right, let's get back in while they move on to sounds like trains.
Industry in my area is currently in peril, with hundreds of jobs at risk at Hitachi Rail as a consequence of a lack of action from the previous government. Will my right honourable friend, the Deputy Prime Minister, join me and our honourable friend, the member for Newton Aycliffe and Spennymoor, with workers, management and trade unions to ensure that no stone is left unturned as we fight for the future of this Hitachi Rail factory?
I thank my right honourable friend for that question and welcome him to his place. He's been a champion for workers at Newton Aycliffe from day one, and I know he's met with the Transport Secretary, and I can assure him that we're in close contact with Hitachi on operations to secure a sustainable future for Newton Aycliffe, and we're committed to a long-term industrial strategy for rolling stock, seeking to...
There are rumours of attempts to revive dead parts of HS2 as well in Labour. Again, where they're going to find the money for that one? Large parts of it, including connecting the north, where this live stream is coming to you from, connecting the north with the Midlands and London as well. Scrapped. I do apologise for interrupting Stephen Flynn. I'm going to just go back. Got to hear what you had to say.
Contact with Hitachi on operations to secure a sustainable future for Newton Aycliffe, and we're committed to a long-term industrial strategy for rolling stock, seeking to support British manufacturing and end the volatility of recent years.
Stephen Flynn.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In today's spirit of cross-party working, will the Deputy Prime Minister join me in applauding the brave Labour staff members who've travelled across the Atlantic to campaign against Donald Trump?
Oh, that was it. Well, he's obviously tongue-in-cheek. reminding Angela Rayner that the Tories and Labour are just one and the same. But this story that came out today, Donald Trump's not very happy with Keir Starmer and Labour. Apparently there were emails sent out inviting Labour members to go to the States and campaign. And it said in the emails given out that accommodation, quote, would be sorted out for them to officially endorse Kamala Harris. Of course, it's quite historically common that Labour have supported the Democrats and vice versa. But this was pretty funny. Liz Truss couldn't help herself and had to throw a hat into the ring for this one and give her 2 cents. Heavily criticising this from happening, saying that no British MP should ever try and have an influence over a foreign election, or specifically the US election in this case. But just back in July, she was on TV at rallies with Trump, doing interviews, endorsing Trump, completely painting the UK out to be something that it isn't, to appease Trump voters as well, saying that it's been overtaken by socialism and socialists, etc. God, if only. So that's what all this is about. It's a bit of a sly dig. The email has been retracted, or whatever it was, inviting people to go over to the States to support Harris, but I wouldn't take him up on that offer because I don't endorse either Trump or Harris.
Mr. Speaker, I'm loving this loving. I don't often get it. But I say to the honourable gentleman is that people in
Speak for yourself, Angela. I'm going to be sick.
Campaign, and that's what we've seen. It happens in all political parties. People go on campaign and they do what they want to do in their own time with their own money.
Melanie Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like many in my constituency of Cowdenbeath and Kirkcaldy, my family knows what it means to raise and support a disabled child. Charities like the Yard in Kirkcaldy do an amazing job providing vital additional help to disabled children and their families. Last month, a survey found that our country is so broken that 3/4 of parents of children with special educational needs and disabilities have been forced to give up work or cut their hours. Does the Deputy Prime Minister agree that our Labour government must tackle this intolerable reality?
I absolutely agree with my honourable friend and pay tribute to those that work with children with special educational needs and disabilities. I myself have my amazing son who does tremendously well given his challenges that he faced in life.
It's an intolerable reality that a lot of people have to face, and a lot of people with children shouldn't have to have gone through years and years of this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You know what happened. You know what went down.
Since this Labour government, we have seen brutal cuts to support
5 long years.
We've seen the taxing of education, and we have seen
just 7.
This week £5 billion of additional pressure put on British businesses. Why does this government have such a problem with aspiration?
Mr. Speaker,
Well, just look at me, right? You know, I'm Deputy Prime Minister, and I've come from nothing. All I had to do was sell out all of my closest friends and become a completely self-driven careerist. Aspirations. You're talking to a bunch of careerists here. I mean, look at Reeves as well with the face. I'll give you aspirations. She's had her sights set on cutting winter fuel payments for all people for a decade now. Keith's aspiring himself down to the tailors.
Speaker, the honourable member might not have been in this place, and I welcome him to...
Have I missed a black hole there? Sorry, Davinia. You pointed out in the chat. Have I missed one? Just let me know.
His place now during the last Parliament, but it was his government that left a £22 billion budget.
Oh, there you go.
It was his government that left us with the biggest housing crisis. It was his government that crashed the economy, and it was his government that saw interest rates, inflation go to 11%, where pensioners were worse off than they are now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Deputy Prime Minister, I watched in horror and condemned the act of October the 7th by the terrorist group Hamas. A year later, I watched in horror as 42,000 people are killed in Gaza, 11,000 of them children, people burned alive, attached to drips, aid workers killed, and now families are starving. Our right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, has said that the world will not stand by and see
BDS, let's get those flags up, people.
Humanitarian assistance. If the Israeli government will not listen to our Prime Minister's words, what tangible, measurable actions will we take as a UK-British government?
Good question, Dawn Butler.
I thank my honourable friend for raising this really serious and important issue. The humanitarian situation in northern Gaza, Mr. Speaker, is dire, and we need an immediate ceasefire and much more aid allowed to flow in and an immediate release of all the hostages. We have suspended UK export licences to Israel for items which might be used in the current conflict, and this government has concluded that there is a clear risk that items exported to Israel might be used in serious violations of international.
Apologies, it looks like I might have missed another black call. I'll call it 2-1 there. Thanks for pointing that out in the chat. This is a serious question. This is an important question. Labour needs to follow up with completely cutting out military support, any sort of weaponry, finance, spy plane liaisons, any assistance whatsoever, intelligence, this kind of thing. Otherwise, these are just hollow, empty sentiments from Rayner. Have I paused it in a funny place, or is Lisa and Andy fallen asleep there?
Humanitarian law in Gaza. This does not change our position, Mr. Speaker. Instead, support for Israel's security, but we will always do so in a manner consistent with our obligations to domestic and international law.
David Simmons. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our child protection services have had to deal with a number of cases where parents and carers have argued that their fatal actions were lawful punishment. So I'd like to ask the Deputy Prime Minister, will she bring forward legislation bringing...
Oh, I get you were just preempting that black hole, so it's just the one. All right, I'll just readjust.
Protection in law against violence.
I think it's a very important point that the right honourable gentleman raises, and I'll make sure that the Minister has a meeting with him. But the first job of any government is to protect the citizens, and that includes our children, and we'll make sure we work across the House to deliver that.
Carolyn Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last Friday was International Menopause Day, and the government announced Mariella Frostrop as the new Menopause Employment Ambassador. Mariella will be working across Whitehall to ensure every department recognises the need to support women through their menopausal years. Hopefully, Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Prime Minister will join me in celebrating this appointment and confirm that this government will do all they can to keep menopausal women happy, healthy and wonderful.
Absolutely, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable friend for all of her work in this area. This government will boost protections for women experiencing menopause symptoms at work, and I'm proud that we've appointed Mariella Frostrop as the new Menopause Employment Ambassador. She is a powerful champion who will work with employers across the country to raise awareness, improve workplace support for women and help them stay in work and progress in their careers.
Monica Harding.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Charlie
Charlie from my constituency of Esher and Walton is an 8-year-old boy with an autism diagnosis who has been out of school for almost a year. He is one of 1,800 children in Surrey missing school because of a lack of appropriate special educational needs provision. Will the government commit to ending this scandal by properly funding special educational needs provision in next week's budget so that children like Charlie in my constituency of Esher and Walton and beyond are no longer let down?
Yeah. I thank the honourable member for her very important question, and I'm sorry to hear about what Charlie and many other children with special educational needs have gone through. We know we've inherited a really dire situation. Many members across this House have raised this issue, and that I'm sure the Chancellor have heard what she said and that she will be upcoming in the budget.
Mike Top.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning we woke to more tragic news of deaths in the Channel. Something that we're hearing far too often. Just last month we saw the death of a pregnant woman and children. Children, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask the Deputy Prime Minister what this government is doing to take on the evil smuggling gangs who are trading in human misery.
I thank my honourable friend and welcome him to this place and his expertise within the National Crime Agency, and he knows that we inherited an asylum system in chaos.
You could open up proper channels so that they're not forced into getting into the country by those means.
We are putting in place a credible plan to protect our borders and remove those with no right to be here by setting up our Border Security Command, backed by £75 million of investment, and we're working with our international partners to target and disrupt the criminal
Stop the
smuggling
gangs, stop the boats. What's the difference? There is no difference.
Will the government please continue to work closely with West Lindsey District Council and myself to ensure that RAF Scampton is sold off in a timely fashion at a fair price so that we secure the future of the runway, the spaceport and...
Bloody hell, he looks like the guy at the end of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade when he drinks from the incorrect grail.
and the Heritage Centre, rather than maximise value and cover it with housing.
I thank the honourable member, the Father of the House, for his question. My right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, is taking urgent action to clear the backlog of cases, reducing the use of asylum accommodation and saving millions for the taxpayers. And I will ensure that the right honourable member is kept fully updated as the decommissioning disposal process of Scampton is followed.
Dave McHillier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in my constituency, hundreds of leaseholders, tenants and shared owners are living in properties with cladding and other defects in their properties, and thousands around the country. Their lives are on hold. Many are facing bankruptcy, delaying having children unable to move. We've had another change in ministerial responsibility. Will the Deputy Prime Minister take a personal lead on keeping on top of this? Because after the years since Grenfell, they're still living in limbo and need some hope of change.
Prime Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for this really important question. And I say from the outset, the pace of remediation has been too slow. And I do take a personal lead in this. 7 years on from the Grenfell Tower tragedy, it is unacceptable that so many buildings still have unsafe cladding. I'm meeting with developers, mayors, regulators and national building safety bodies to press the urgency of this work. And I will make sure action is being taken to make sure that homes are safe.
Helen Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, the victims of Grenfell obviously deserve justice. I think the small amount that they're going to get isn't going to come soon enough. Unfortunately, that's going to be one of the ongoing tragedies to that. And with so many other buildings still being clad in the same way, don't be surprised if we see other instances, you know,
that scheme so that we can keep farmers going when
happen.
they're deluged by floodwater?
Well, I'm really sorry to hear the plight of the Shropshire farmers, and we inherited a flood defence programme in disrepair. Thanks to 14 years of mismanagement and failure, communities are unprotected and families and businesses are forced to pay the price. We launched a flood defence task force to turbocharge the delivery and coordination of flood defences, and we're investing in
delivery
£1.5 billion this year to scale
and a task force. One sec. Okay. So another task force, eh? Is that it? Let's so 3-1 in the lead now. And a task force. Super task force, you know. I'm picturing like the Thunderbirds theme tune or something like that. And then these people emerging from sliding doors open in like an aircraft hangar or something, and the super team walks out in slow motion. The Labour task force is here. And then they just literally stand, stare into the mid-distance and point, and then they sod off home.
Gets a meeting with the Minister.
Anna Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government has delivered on its manifesto
another,
commitment
to
to introduce the Employment Rights Bill in its first... This includes a historic fair pay agreement for care
4-1
workers
now, sorry.
and will
3-1
benefit
before.
all those who care for older and disabled adults like those in my constituency of Shipley. Will the Deputy Prime Minister agree with me that care workers deserve pay and conditions that match the amazing work they do to support our loved ones to have a fulfilling life?
I thank my honourable friend and welcome her to her place. As a biased former care worker,
This could
I'll
be an
always
unassailable
champion
lead now,
carers and
4-1.
the complex quality and professional work that they do. I absolutely agree that care workers deserve the pay and conditions to match their enormous contribution to our community, and I'm proud to say that we're delivering that fair pay agreement that will give the carers the recognition that they deserve.
This is
and
a
we'll
route.
make sure
It's a route.
that those carers are able
It's
to deliver
official.
the best possible care to our loved ones.
James McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last month, a widely reported study from Aston University Business School showed that UK goods exports to the EU are 27% down and imports 32% lower than they would otherwise have been, thanks to the Conservatives' failed Brexit deal. Will the Deputy Prime Minister tell me what steps this government is taking as part of their reset with the EU to cut Brexit red tape for small businesses to help our economy get growing again?
Well, I welcome the right honourable member to his place, and he's right to advocate for small businesses. They are the backbone of our economy. This government is turning the page on the relationship with Europe, reinvigorating alliances and forging new partnerships rather than reopening the divisions of the past.
The batteries on the
we will
scoreboard.
improve the UK's trade and investment relationship with the EU, tearing down unnecessary barriers to trade. This will not involve rejoining the single market, customs union or reintroducing freedom of movement, but we will get that relationship better.
Rachel Blake.
For so long they avoided the question of the EU. Now there's talk about getting a closer relationship with the single market and customs union. Goodness, I would debated over this for years. I won't get into the complete double standards where Keir Starmer's concerned on all this as well.
Thank you, Mr.
We'd be here for
Speaker.
hours.
27,000 people in the cities of London and Westminster live in the private rented sector. After 14 years of neglect and delay, they face damp and mould in their homes, they risk no-fault eviction and out-of-the-blue rent hikes.
Yes,
Does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with me that the Renters' Right Bill currently in committee will transform life for private renters and finally rebalance power between tenants and landlords?
I thank my honourable friend and I welcome her to this place. And I'm incredibly proud of the Renters' Rights Bill that we're pushing through Parliament, because too many renters are being exploited by a minority of unscrupulous landlords unable to challenge bad practices.
We'll build more social housing for a start. Or even convert empty properties, there's millions of them, into social properties. Deliver.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Communities across the country, including in Bedfordshire, recently experienced widespread flooding. The village of Malden in my constituency has experienced an increase in flooding following cumulative housing development. As the Deputy Prime Minister requires communities across the country to build more homes, will she also ensure that those new developments do not increase flooding risk?
Again, I thank the honourable member for raising and also welcome him to his place. We recognise the devastating impact flooding can have. I know the flooding minister visited Bedfordshire in September to meet with volunteers and residents. We inherited flood defences that are in disrepair and behind schedule. We've launched a flood resilience task force, and when it comes to the planning reforms,
is there another one there? Should it be 7-1?
To deliver the 1.5 million homes this country needs, we will ensure that the right infrastructure is in place and communities are resilient.
Kim Jones.
This is an absolute rout. An absolute
place in the West Derby area of Liverpool is a hospice providing support to sick children and their families.
Such a one-sided scoreline.
Closure has to find £5 million by the end of the year. Does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with me that hospices like these need to be on a statutory footing and not reliant on charitable funding?
I thank my honourable friend for that question, and the hospice situation in this country has faced significant challenges because of the 14 years of devastation under the Conservatives. The Health Secretary has already raised these issues and knows that this is of importance, and I'll make sure she gets a meeting.
Final question, Sir John Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Deputy Prime Minister will know that my constituency in Lincolnshire as a whole is the breadbasket of Britain, producing 12% of the food that's consumed across the entire nation, 30% of the vegetables, 20% of the sugar beet and so on. She will know that's because of the Grade 1 and 2 land in Lincolnshire. And yet Lincolnshire faces an invasion of giant pylons down the east coast and huge solar developments. So will she meet a delegation of colleagues from Lincolnshire and nearby, including my representative from Louth and Sleaford?
You're not going to be able to produce that food if climate change keeps heading the way it's going. And don't give me any of this NIMBY crap, Sir John Hayes. It's not messing about with food security. If you don't tackle climate change, you're not going to be able to grow anything at all. Think about it.
We will ensure that we have renewable energy, so we have energy security in this country, and we will get Britain building again.
That completes Prime Minister's questions, and let the front benches change over.
Well, what an absolute storm. 7-1. 7-1 to Postman Swat there. So he certainly delivered on deliveries. I thought we were going to get more black holes in there. Look, you know, there was a lot of look at what we've inherited. They danced around it a little bit, but 7-1 in the end. And it seems like week on week they're cozying up to each other more and more. They've been aligned on policy for quite some time now, but in being so open about it and chummy and all this, you know, attempts at humour and banter between them in the house, it's sickening, and they're really bad jokes as well. Knocks you sick, doesn't it? So what do you make of that, people? Did you foresee the scoreline? What do you think about the questions? I think most of them were all pretty tame. Nothing hard hitting. You didn't really have to have Hoyle intervening just the once. Dawn Butler brought up Gaza, but we're still, unfortunately, far away from any serious action, any proper sanctions. Super Tiny, welcome to the chat, as well as Politics Clive, Hospitality. Nice one. Alright, let's just get rid of the scoreboard. Until next week, so that's another victory for Postman Twat. You're quite right, Morbius. Gaza shouldn't just be a footnote, especially when our elected leaders come to debate. Yes, there are domestic issues. Every individual MP, and there's 600 of the bastards, elected. They're not all bastards. There's still a few good ones in there, just certainly not in certain parties. But their job is to represent the constituents. That's what they vote to do, but they also have a job collectively where voting in Parliament's concerned to look after the nation in a broader sense, and especially be concerned about how we conduct ourselves on the international stage as well, which we're not doing a very good job at right now, if we're being perfectly frank. And they can't play both sides like Lammy and Starmer have tried to do for so long now. Starmer met with some victims, some Palestinian people who've lost family members, been displaced themselves, and tried to echo some, again, hollow sentiments about his concern. But you can't legitimately do that and repeatedly go on TV and make statements about your unyielding loyalty with the oppressive side, with Israel, as well as declaring yourself a Zionist without qualification, need we remind ourselves. Can't play both sides. I guess while we're on that topic, I'll just bring up one of the latest stories on this. Still got a few bits and pieces to go through. Please stay where you are. So this just come out earlier today from an Israeli ex-security advisor that IDF soldiers should refuse orders that might be war crimes. Is this some sort of whistleblower? Let's take a look. But before we do, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, please do make sure that you've hit that thumbs up button on the stream. Also, just another quick bit of shilling for anybody who's joined us midstream. You can help to support the channel with a membership for just 99p. Lots of perks for you to enjoy. Please do check out the benefits of showing solidarity in that way. Super chat is open, as well as super thanks for people watching back on a replay. And please do add a comment as well. Try and get back to as many comments as possible. Thanks once more to all of you who've gifted memberships to other viewers recently as well. Awesome stuff. So let's take a look at this. Bit of a clip first.
Do you believe war crimes are taking place?
I fear that they might be, yes.
And what should they do?
They should refuse. If a soldier or an officer is expected to commit something that might be suspected as a war crime, they must refuse. We were attacked savagely on October 7th, and there is no question, not about the savagery, not about the brutality.
Now, obviously, it's refreshing to see somebody speak out against the international war crimes that Israel's committing, but whatever you do, man, do not try and drag this back to what happened on October the 7th. Yes, 1,200 people were killed. They like to avoid the topic of how many of those 1,200 people were killed by the IDF themselves when they fired on their own citizens. They'll also have you believe that that was the worst thing that has happened in the 76-year occupation of Palestine, which it isn't even a drop in the ocean when you look at the numbers. That also was not... what's happened since is not Israel defending itself. They are occupied, and legally what happened was Israeli forces and citizens were attacked while they're occupying another state, a state which has the right to defend itself against occupation by any means necessary.
Not about the malicious intentions of Hamas. There's no question about that. And we obviously...
Sorry, that come out there. Morbius, thanks a lot for that super sticker. Awesome stuff. Thanks for that show of solidarity. Did that cut out towards the end of the clip? Just, there we go.
Do you believe war crimes are taking place?
Just go from here.
Again, that's beyond any question. But this doesn't give us the right to, obviously, not to commit war crimes. And also not to sink to the level of the terrorist organization.
Yeah, it sort of cuts him out mid-sentence there. Sorry if the audio is coming through on the interview a little quiet for you. It's a bit low in my headphones here. Thanks again for that, Morbius. So he is right in the fact it's a little late to say that Israel shouldn't commit acts of terrorism. If this retired security advisor probably is more than aware, it's been going on for some time, he's probably aware of war crimes that haven't even come out in the public domain yet. So why this sudden not a U-turn, I guess, different sort of perspective coming from an Israeli? When you look at Netanyahu and how he ignores international courts, he ignores any so-called advice from the United States and the UK, any threats to withdraw support, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. I'm not sure that these words will be heeded by Netanyahu. So this is Eran Etzion, a former soldier. You can look at this here. As the interview was being conducted, doctors and medical staff at the Indonesian hospital in Jabala were sending desperate voice notes to the international community, begging for aid. One senior nurse, in a message heard by the BBC, speaks in an exhausted voice of relentless privations allegedly imposed by the Israelis besieging Jabalia. And it's happening all around you, everywhere you look there. That might be a bit too graphic to play. yeah, just a bit there about the US threatening to cut some arms shipments if Israel doesn't surge aid into Gaza. That again is hollow. The United Nations as well bringing up the fact that so much aid is being restricted from getting through into Gaza at the moment. That's Professor Philip Sands, KC, who says that Israel is violating international law. Of course they are. Of course they are. They're breaking the Geneva Convention pretty much every day, at least, plus a whole host of other pieces of international legislation. And yeah, he says it has to be proportionate, it has to meet the requirements of international humanitarian law, must distinguish between civilians and military targets, doesn't allow you to use famine as a weapon of war, it doesn't allow you to forcibly deport or evacuate large numbers of people, so it's impossible to see what's going on now in Gaza, as it's impossible to see what happened on the 7th of October and not say crimes are screaming out. He's led the genocide case against Myanmar and the case of Palestinian statehood at the International Court of Justice in The Hague. You probably recognise him from earlier statements as well. Well, let's hope that Netanyahu finds himself in The Hague in no short time. Yeah, good point, Davinia, just about the US. You know, they say they could and they might, and those are particularly important words. It's just for sure. They're all for sure. Just like with the UK, just like with Starmer behind closed doors, they give their unrelenting support. They're absolute psychopaths. Right, that's all I'll say on the Middle East situation for now. There continues to be exchanges between Lebanon and Israel at rocket fire. We'll wait to see what Israel's response to Iran could potentially be as well, but I'll just leave that there for now. I want to move on to something to do with domestic politics just very quickly. This is the subject of the video I mentioned that's going to be premiering for members immediately after the live stream, and that'll be going public tomorrow, so please do hang around after the stream and check that out as well. I'll play the full clip of what the video concerns. It's Wesley again. It's the boy streeting. What is it this time? Okay, so he's been on the media rounds again, I should say. This time on LBC. He was actually confronted by an NHS nurse who was pointing out how alarmed she is, shall we say, at the funding that Labour are receiving from private healthcare firms, and quite a lot of money is exchanging hands here. So let's have a look at a bit of a clip from that interview from LBC. And like I said, please do check out the premiere. Come up shortly after the live stream. I've got that all lined up, I just need to change the view settings from private. almost immediately after. Right, so this is Wes Street. Let's.
But shut up, Wesley.
It's always something with Wesley, though, isn't it? It's always something.
Wes, if you say that you're not interested in privatisation of the NHS, could you please explain then since 2015, when you entered Parliament, there's been more than 60% of the money that's been donated to you has come from companies and individuals with links to private healthcare. Now, as a nurse, Wes, I'm only allowed to accept trivial gifts from patients such as chocolates, okay? Because it could be seen as a conflict of interest. Can you tell the listeners what your donors are receiving in return for their donations and how the public can believe you that this is not a conflict
All
of
right,
interest?
well, let's
So I'd say two things. The third thing I just want to say is on Tracy's point about political donations. I mean, firstly, the people who've donated to me, I mean, there's been such a stretch with some of the, I think, deliberate misrepresentation we see online between people who've donated to me and links to the private sector. For example, one of the people who've donated to me in opposition to fund staff in my office was involved in a recruitment company. Now, that recruitment company, according to people who've kind of dug into it, does some health recruitment. I think that's such a tangential link, but you would think, reading some of the things, and actually, to be blunt, listening to Tracy...
He more or less makes up this example and throws the word online around to try and detract any credence, any credit from the fact that a lot of these donations are in the public domain. Okay, it's public knowledge that individuals and the Labour Party itself have been in receipt of donations from people and organisations directly connected to private healthcare. He's trying to, again, dance around it like Fred Astaire, but it's not going very well. He's got two left feet in this case. Never mind my left eye. Wes has got two left feet. But he doesn't do a very good job of it, like I said. And it's all there clear as day in black and white, and he's just trying to pass, oh, this is just some online rumour, you know, it turns out it's just this consultancy thing, you know, you can forget about it, you're not able to look up these facts very simply for yourself. And he always sounds so disastrously overconfident and assertive in the way that he says these things. That's one thing that I can't stand about Streeton, is how he dead-eyes people. I know I can only hear him in this particular example, but the way that he just totally assumes that by sounding confident, it makes it true. He's such a turd.
You'd think that I was taking loads of donations from Bupa, and I think that is willful misrepresentation. And the final thing I'd say on political donations, as there's obviously been a lot on this in recent months, those newsletters that come through your door, the staff that work for political parties doing campaigning, the election campaigns that you've been subjected to quite a lot over the last 9 years, they all have to be paid for. Now, we could take the approach that other countries do of having state-funded political parties, so we all pay a levy or we pay through our taxes for political parties. I don't think, and listeners might correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think people want to see their taxes used to fund politics. Therefore, we do have to raise money. And in direct response to Tracy's question...
There are no other options, honestly. There are no other options. Honestly. Sound confident, Wes?
What do my donors get for donations? Well, they get a Labour MP in Ilford North and a Labour government, and they get nothing else.
They get nothing else. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. You know, naive isn't in the dictionary, and neither's the word gullible, Wesley. And if Wesley had it his way, yeah. Which he can now get, now that he's at the reins of the NHS, it's pretty foreboding when you look at the number of people in the cabinet, especially him, who've received the donations, the sorts of money we're talking about. I bring up the fact that one firm in particular, in terms of its direct interest with private healthcare, so they've donated hundreds of thousands of pounds to the Labour Party. They also have over 30 million floating on the stock market invested in United States private healthcare firms. Don't tell me there isn't a link there. Don't tell me that those two things are mutually exclusive, just a coincidence that one of those things doesn't influence the other, and that these people don't expect to get anything back for their so-called donations. It's just open bribery. And you've got all sorts of people in there. You've got lobbyists, think tanks, companies, whatever way that they can try and slime the way in to the NHS. These people are going to try and do it. And it's not going to be for the want of improving people's healthcare. It's for the want of profit. It's for the want of private profit. Sorry, just bring the background music back up a sec. So, yeah, it's for private profit, and they want to lead us down the sort of path, the insurance-based system that they've got in America. Where people pay hand over fist, and there are all these ways of leaving people out in the lurch as well. With insurance-based healthcare. You have to fill out all these forms about pre-existing conditions, things that have happened to you, your medical history before you signed up for the insurance policy, and if you just happen to forget that maybe you broke a little toe when you were 4 years old or something like that, or perhaps you had pneumonia once, they can turn around to you and say, no, we're not going to pay out for your healthcare, even though you've been paying your premiums, and the thing that you haven't disclosed bears no relation to your existing illness. They're still going to cut you out anyway. It's disgusting. It completely eliminates the correct concept of the NHS being free at the point of use. And we all chip in together via national insurance contributions for that. It's one of the best loved institutions in the country, one of the best examples in the world of socialism in action, just as long as these absolute vultures don't get their hands on it and it's properly staffed and properly funded. And I know that this quote I'm about to give you was in relation to the Tories, but it actually came from a Tory, not just any Tory, a former Tory Prime Minister, John Major, when he was looking back in the early days of the Tory government and said that the NHS would be about as safe with them as a pet hamster would be with a hungry python. And the same thing applies to Wesley, I think, without a shadow of a doubt. So I'll go into a bit more detail about all that in the video that'll be coming out straight after the stream. Please do check that one out, members. It'd be awesome to have you there on the premiere and give it a bit of a preemptive boost before it goes public tomorrow. just want to quickly talk about protest and anti-racist demonstrations in general as well. You might have heard in the news today, certain notorious far-right protesters returned to the country after having directed these mobs and yobs a few months back after the Southport stabbing incident. Of course, Stephen Yaxley Lennon has returned, trying to get a bit of publicity. He's going to be attempting to do some sort of demonstration in London this coming Saturday, but there is a large counter-protest being organised against him, which will no doubt eclipse the size of people who show up to support Yaxley Lennon, also known as Tommy Robinson, to his knuckle-dragging supporters. I believe he's particularly trying to exploit the 61-year-old who recently died in prison, this wild far-right conspiracy theorist who was at the riots and was serving a sentence. So he's trying to milk that as much as he can. There's going to be a massive counter-protest there, like I said. So check out this video from Peace and Justice about what you can do if you fancy travelling to London, or if you're in London, please do show up and take a stand against the far right this coming Saturday.
We need to stop the rise of the far right and their racist, divisive ideology, their hateful extremism, and we've seen that trickle over into the streets over the summer in the UK. You've got figures like Tommy Robinson trying to stoke division. It's all about divide and conquer. They want us fighting amongst ourselves. They want us to take our anger out on people arriving on small boats instead of the people arriving in limousines and the top 1% who are ruling over us. The audacity, he's an immigrant himself. He comes from an Irish background himself. This country was built on immigration. This country was built off the back of immigrants. The NHS was built on immigration. The war was won with 2.1 million Indian soldiers, volunteers fighting for the British. So yeah, Saturday, the 26th of October, London, be there to oppose the fascist, dangerous, divisive Tom Robinson and say that we've got more in common and that he can't divide us.
Just pause that so you can get the details there. I'll just zoom in a little bit. So if you go to stopfarright.uk, this is of course going to be a peaceful protest against the far right. It's not any kind of incitement. I dare say the same probably can't be said for the opposing side. So the official title of the demo is Unite Against Racism, Islamophobia and Anti-Semitism. Saturday 26th of October, that's this coming Saturday, meeting at 11:30 a.m. Piccadilly, SW1Y 4QF London. And there's going to be quite a few different organisations there. You can see all of the union badges, anti-racist organisations there as well. Please do what you can to show your support. And in that video it mentioned a few of the complete examples of hypocrisy from Yaxley Lennon. He does come from an Irish migrant background himself, like we're saying, but also whilst all the riots were going on in the UK, he's busy sunning it up abroad. And it was half expected that he might be arrested himself when he got off the plane today. Unfortunately, he wasn't, because he had a clear part in the incitement in what went down in those summer riots. Absolutely, it's undeniable. On the following Saturday, there's going to be another demonstration as well, which I'll be talking about in another stream. No spoilers on that one just yet. Okay, people, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, it's getting a little late. I'm going to have to call it a night shortly, but don't go anywhere. Please do hang around. I want to give another shout out to all of the members on the channel. Thanks a lot for those of you who've supported my left eye with a membership. You can join this list of people for just 99 pence. Excellent value. You probably can't even get a chocolate bar in a motorway service station for that these days. And it's even cheaper than a tasty hot beverage. And a final reminder, before we go, please do hit the thumbs up button on the stream. Share across your social media. And add a comment if you're watching back on a replay. Hang around though, because I'm going to be premiering that video like I said. Thanks for all of your comments in the chat as well, everybody. It's been great to see a nice busy chat again. Hope we're all good. Hope the streams are helping you get through the week. More content to come as we get into the second part of the week, of course. Super Tiny, thanks a lot for that gifted membership. Solidarity. Fantastic. On that topic as well, thanks a lot to those of you who've rejoined or renewed your memberships lately as well. Thanks a lot for sticking with me. And I'll be back with more videos, content and stuff soon. So until then, take care of yourselves, people. Do refresh the channel page for the premiere of this video, which is coming up in just a couple of minutes. Take care of yourselves, and my left eye will be seeing you soon. Good night, everyone. Solidarity, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.